All right, I'm the Flat Rate Master, and today, well, we're answering your questions. So I posted on social media, Instagram, Facebook, ask me anything. And so these are the questions that got submitted, and I apologize in advance if I screw up your name. So, sorry. I'm gonna answer them on Instagram. If you don't follow me, I am at Flat Rate Master on Instagram, and on Facebook, Flat Rate Master Official. Old Man Root asks if you have a full set of non-skip metric sockets or wrenches, if there's any reason to buy standard. Yes and no. Honestly, there's gonna be some play in going on a SAE fastener, i.e. most pullers, but here's the thing, you can get away with it. If you're in the Rust Belt, however, I would definitely invest in a set of SAE sockets because you can hammer them on metric fasteners that are rusted out. But yeah, you definitely can get away with not having SAE. The big thing is some of the sizes are a little odd. So SAE. Resnan 42, quick question, Mike. What scan tool would you recommend for doing rear brakes when they have the electric parking brake? Well, you don't need a Bosch, you don't need a Snap-on, you don't need the full-size Autel. The smaller Autels, even the Launch CRP 129 does them, or this Millennium Master from Launch also does rear brakes. A lot more affordable and does a lot of stuff. I will be doing a review on this. I got this from my Mac dealer. He's lending it to me to do a review, but we will see how it does, and we'll get back to you on that. JTM Moto and Outdoors. How did you learn to build computers and why the interest? Well, the interest is because of, well, editing videos. Quick thing about when I first got into, doing this, I realized my Dell laptop wasn't gonna cut it, so I went out and got a laptop, a gaming laptop, which scrubbed through video great, had no problems with that. The problem is on renders, it hit 95C. Which, if you're not a computer geek, that is thermal throttle limit. So it took double the runtime of any 4K video to render it. So I spent all weekend rendering videos because I was sitting there, and when you're rendering on a laptop and it's at thermal throttle, you're not doing anything else with it. So I did what I do with anything I'm interested in, is I researched the snot out of it. And one of the things I wound up doing is watching a lot of computer building channels on YouTube. Why? Well, they have to render videos. So they have a lot of great content about building, editing rigs. So watch, Jay's 2 Cents, Bitwit Kyle, Linus to see what not to do, and Paul's Hardware. And they've got great tutorials on how to build computers. I've never built computers in my life before I built my wife's computer, then I built one for my kids, and then I built my ultimate for right now, editing rig, Revel PC. I'll put a picture up here. You'll kind of get the theme. It is at the time I built it, it had the best mainstream processor, mainstream. $1,500 Threadripper, wasn't in the budget. But it's got a 3950X from AMD, 16 cores, 32 threads, monster. I mean, my render times are a third of runtime now, but anyway, that's what it got me into them. Building computers, if you can fix cars, you can build computers. It's not that hard. it's a lot of choosing parts and spending money, but anyway, that's how I got into it because, well, I didn't have any choice. Guaris Antar asked, I know this has probably been asked a lot, but kind of go over the best starter tools for those up and coming parts changers, LOL, that aren't like you, a technician. You don't have to go out and spend. I'm going to give brands more than, actual tools because I did a starter video on YouTube. One of my very first videos on YouTube was about starting technician tools. It's one of my most watched videos. I think it is actually my most watched videos. 360,000 views, I think. But brands like Gear Wrench, Vim Tools, Tecton, Sunex, Gray Pneumatic. Obviously, with air tools, Ingersoll Rand, electric tools, Milwaukee. But those are the brands I recommend you get the tools you need. It's hard for me to know what kind of tools you need. If you're going into a shop that's working on Volkswagen Audis, well, obviously you need triple squares. If you're going into a shop that's working on Hondas, you don't need triple squares. So it's really, hard to tell you exactly what to buy, but go buy those brands. They're all going to be good. They're all probably going to do good for you. All right. Eric X. Brock, Astra Tools sends you a padlock case with a note not to open it. Do you? Not on camera. No, I probably would do it however they want me to because they're cool people and they make some really great tools. So if they sent me something, I'd follow directions. All right, what type of cigar cutter do you like best? Punch, scissors? Well, I will show you. Now, I keep at the shop a Cuban Crafters Perfect Cutter. I prefer straight cuts. I've got a V cutter here as well. That's how often I use it. I leave it here. I've got a Cigar at home. Cuban Crafters got a little funky because there were some ownership issues and it was hard to get the original. My favorite cutter though was a original Paleo, great cutter. They've since been bought out, so I don't know the current quality, but was the best cutter I've ever owned until it broke. The Ellis Sanchez, an upcoming technician not being in the industry 1 year, now beginning to get flag hours. What are some simple tips you can give on making sure your productivity is high? Don't worry about flag hours. Worry about doing the job right. You're going to be a little slow, period. There's no way around it. Speed comes with experience. Trust me, don't rush through a job because doing it over again or having to go back and fix something you didn't do, screwed up, roll a gasket when you're rushing, don't do it. Seriously, do the job right. That should be your top priority. Trust me, speed will come with time. You'll get to a point, sorry, somebody just pulled up. Once you've done a job a few times, you get more familiar with doing that type of job, speed will come. Worry about quality. Production hours are great, but the more you try to beat the clock as a young technician, the more you're going to screw up. So worry about quality, speed will come. SVT Estrada, what was it like in the older days without so much electrical diagnosis we have in the 90s to late 2000s mainly or earlier? Well, it sucked. I came up in the generation where we were seeing a lot of early fuel injection, a lot of feedback carburetors, and for you old guys, I'm sure you just got chills. Those sucked. And still dealing with, plug wires, firing orders, and original carburetors, actual carburetors, and you know, that kind of stuff, and points. Quick story about points. I was working at a shop, you know, I was off on Mondays, came in Tuesday, and the boss had to take a day off, and he wasn't there, I think, for a couple days that week or whatever. But a young kid was up front, and he comes to me and goes, man, this lady dropped this car off, and she goes, something about changing her carburetor over to summer setting, and, you know, yada, 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 and it's running bad, and we couldn't figure it out. Okay, 70 Cutlass. Go out there, crank it up, put it in gear, you know, try to do a little burnout in the parking lot, can't. Okay, walk up front, go, okay, I need a set of points, and it's whatever it was, hours to put the points in and adjust the carb. And he's like, what? They had no idea the points were out of adjustment, and that was what was causing it to run bad. It took me literally 5 minutes. But side note on carburetors, I can adjust them. I used to. I haven't done it in a while. But I used to be able to adjust them really well, get the cars running as pretty much as good as they were going to run on a carburetor. I will no longer touch a carburetor. Why? Because people think carburetors are going to run like fuel-injected cars. They're not. They're never going to. You can get the drivability as good as it's going to get, and they won't be happy because it doesn't drive like a fuel-injected car. So it's usually, you know, people with money that drive, you know, hot rods and drive, you know, late model cars that, you know, you hop and crank up, you know, AC comes on, everything runs good, you just pull off. Carburetors don't work that way. So a lot of, you know, unhappy customers because I charged a lot of money for tuning a carburetor and it wasn't like fuel injection, so they don't do it anymore. Not, you know, not that we would take that kind of stuff in here anyway. Rocco, pause. Are you worried about getting mouth cancer sucking on those cigs? They're cigars, not cigarettes. About as much as I'm worried about getting hit by a bus. I'm going to die of something. I might as well enjoy my life. No Linoff. Like I said, I'm going to mispronounce these things. Any plans on starting your own shop? Any advice for someone thinking about starting their own shop? No current plans because real estate. It's expensive here in Atlanta, and I have, you know, if I wanted to start a shop, it'd have to be in an area that could support a high-end shop. Any advice for someone thinking about starting their own shop? Take how much money you think you need, triple it. It's expensive, and you'd be surprised how fast you go through cash while you're starting a shop. So you need lots of money. Can you go over, Nicholas 454, can you go over what your favorite and least favorite part of being a mechanic is? I love the work. I do. I love coming in, diagnosing cars, fixing cars. It's enjoyable to me. Some of the stuff you have to deal with in this industry gets really annoying. I hate that, especially in some shops, it's really worse than this, you know, this shop. And that's the part that bugs me the most. It's not what happens in this shop, but what happens in the industry. Gary F.N. Schmidt, do you ever plan to retire? And if so, what would you do to keep busy? Probably not. I'll probably keep doing something. Don't really, I mean, the problem is if I retire, I'd be bored out of my mind. So, probably not. Other than also go work at Walmart and say hi to people. Anzalone09 asks, why don't you do any case study type videos? I've done a few. The biggest problem for me is I cannot film during the day. With everything going on in the shop, one, chances are you probably wouldn't be able to hear me. YouTube would copyright strike the snot out of me because of all the music going. And I just can't do it during the day. So I'm limited on what is here. And in fact, I actually, when I got the new Revel, the power drawer in this drawer is dedicated to my filming equipment. So before I used to, take it home, bring it in on Thursdays to film. Now it's here, and unfortunately the case studies have kind of died out. There was like, oh, I'd love to do a case study on that, and the car's here, but I don't have my camera gear. And since I've done that, it's been even less of that. The big problem is the interesting case studies, the stuff that would be cool to show. I mean, the everyday stuff, everybody does it. Oh, O2 sensors, heater's bad. The interesting stuff is usually fixed and gone in a day. So it's, I can't film it. Worldpac usually has a lot of parts in stock. The really interesting stuff, the broken wire in the middle of nowhere, it's fixed that day. So that's one of my challenges in this shop trying to do case studies is, well, I need the car here and I need it broke. The other problem I've had is I've got 3 or 4 partially filmed case studies where I didn't save the data. I didn't save the scope when it actually went bad, or it was doing it all day. I go to film, nothing. So I do have a couple of case studies that I can't do anything with because, well, I spent a bunch of time filming stuff I couldn't use. All right, Borneo asks, how about filming the guys in the shop for once? I would love to. None of them want to be on camera. They don't want to be on camera. I was at Bam Bam's gender reveal party. In case you don't know, Bam Bam and Pebbles are having a boy. She's pregnant. I was there talking to his mother-in-law. And she asked me, why is it that Bam Bam won't appear on camera on your channel? His mother-in-law. He doesn't want to be on camera. I know I would, love to, especially Bam Bam. I mean, that video would go viral. I would give him 100% of the money if he'd come on camera. But the problem is, well, a lot of people don't want to be internet famous. They don't want to be on camera. And that's the guys in the shop. They just don't want to be on camera. The only guy here at the shop that has actually appeared in a speaking role is Josh. Some of my early videos where I did time lapses, some of the guys came in camera, but that was about it. But they don't want to be on camera. I mean, I'd love to film them. Trust me, I would love to introduce them to y'all, but they won't come on camera. All right, the Mexican Fly Fisher asks, if you could do it all over again, would you have started at a dealership or independent, and why? All right, when I started, getting into the dealer world was extremely difficult. If you didn't have experience at that brand, they didn't have quick lubes back when I started, so there was no starting position. So it was really hard if you did not get into a program at your school to get into those dealerships. So it was really hard to get into dealerships. There was an accident right outside. I would probably go to a tech school that had a program that with the brand I wanted to work with. I would then go to a dealership, get a good bit of experience in the dealer world, and then jump ship and go to the independent world for more variety. What got you into the trade? Necessity. I mean, I had to fix my own cars, and I realized I enjoyed it, and I could make money at it. But mostly because, I was poor. What's your next goal? It's Dan Zenny. I know I'm screwing that up. It's Dan Zenny. What's your next goal as a technician? Just keep improving. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is I want to get better. I want to learn new skills, always be improving. All right, now we're going to switch over to Facebook. All right, Juan Sanchez, how would one gauge an independent shop potential as an employer? What kind of questions would you ask? I'm trying to get out of the dealer life. their equipment, their online reputation, the cleanliness of the shop. Talk to the technicians in the shop. If they're pissy, probably don't want to work there. But that's a good, I've done videos on it, you know, but yeah, you want to look at their equipment, look at their shop, look at their online presence, and then talk to guys that work in the shop. Sawyer Smoak, I know you've touched on gaining diag experience in a previous video. It'd be nice to know what are some of good practices to further your diagnostic routines other than keep doing it over and over again. Watch Scanner Danner. Learn circuit design. Once you understand how things work, once you understand wiring diagrams, it's universal. It's, you know, that's the best thing you can do. Once you figure out how a solenoid works, how a fuel injector works, it can be applied across every brand. That's what's great about Scanner Danner, is he teaches those fundamentals. Once you understand a fuel injector, once you understand how it works, electrically how it works, across all brands, those type of fuel injectors are the same. All right, Tim Mann, how about how to deal with working with a technician with a bad attitude and outlook on the industry? And he's talked about, he's been floating around in town, and he's hired currently at a Chevrolet dealership, and he's working with a very poor technician with a very poor attitude that throws stuff, yells stuff, etc. And Ron Timmons said, quit now. It's probably not an option for him. Headphones, listen to music, drown him out, pay him as little attention as you can, ignore him as much as you can. I used to love working in the corner of a shop, not because I hated people, I do, but that's beside the point, but I could sit there in the corner and just work. And you know, when I got done with my stuff, I could go walk around the shop and help anybody I needed to help or whatever. You know, they were more than welcome to come see me and, you know, ask for help and that kind of stuff. But just tune them out as best you can. You know, just tune them out and, you know, listen to whatever music you like. Diego Rubio asked maybe a video on how much technicians have in tools. I don't believe I know anyone that knows the exact figure of how much they've spent. Tips on how to manage a want versus a need. You can do a spreadsheet and sit there and spend hours and hours and hours and hours. I can tell you, because of our insurance policy for the shop, all of my stuff is covered. And I had to itemize everything over $5,000 or $2,500, I forget what it was, but just that was over $100,000. So yeah, it can get expensive, but you know, yeah. The only way to really figure it out is to sit there and itemize it and you know, look it up and see how much, you know, it costs. Tips on how to manage a want versus a need. Make a list on if you borrow a tool more than once, you need it. If you think it's cool, you don't need it. You want it. That's the biggest thing, is when it comes to working in the shop. Best thing you can do is get a notepad or use your phone, and you borrow a tool, write it down. You borrow a tool, write it down, and then start checking those tool needs off the list. And one of the things you can do on that list is, if you borrow a tool more than once or twice and you've used it a bunch of times, well, that one becomes a priority to get. So that's how you manage wants versus needs. If you're borrowing tools, you need them. If you're just, it's ooh, wow, you want it. You know, work boots, Nemanja Opacic, I'm so sorry. How about work boots? I have a pair, how about work boots? I have a hard time finding a comfortable pair. Brands you recommend a certain style. Redbacks, the slip-on redback boots is what I wear with their inserts. Now, I don't like work boots. Generally, the lace-up style, when I'm doing stuff where I'm bending over, just irritates me. So I generally didn't use work boots. I wore work shoes, you know, with obviously grip on the bottom to non-slip. But since I've gone to redbacks, they're very comfortable with the inserts. You are going to have to replace the inserts probably about once a year. They'll last you several years, but redbacks. Jamin Slack asks, what was it like when you first entered the industry? It sucked. I mean, I was working in where I live, still live, and small shops, didn't pay great, lots of old junk, lots of, well, junk, and people didn't want to pay to fix it. So it got frustrating. Carburetors sucked. Feedback carburetors really sucked. Vacuum lines really suck. So, you know, you're in the industry at that time, it was not a great time to be a technician when I started. Skipped over a few. Frederick Valeur, simple one here. You mentioned once or maybe more that you like your Ghidorah open-end wrench set and use them often. I have a set that was part of a larger Ghidorah set of tools, but never seem to use them. They're nice, sure, but I tend to default to my combination wrenches and use whatever end suits me. What am I using and what do you use those suckers for? Do I use these as combination wrenches? No. My first grab is usually my snap-on set of wrenches, combination. These are great when you need a second wrench. When you're doing an AC line that has two different sizes or the exact same size, you've got the same size wrench. Biggest reason I use them for, though, is rear brakes, sometimes front brakes, but the caliper slide pins, when you go to impact it out and it starts spinning, those are the perfect size. They're thick enough, strong enough to hold on. If you've ever used the Vim ultra thin wrenches and an impact, they can hurt. So, excuse me, they're more comfortable, but that's generally where I use it as a second wrench of the same size or for doing brakes. All right, Jeremy Griffin. You've done a lot of videos about the ups and downs of being a tech in different fields like dealerships and chain stores. What about talking about the techs who work at the manufacturing plants that are built in? I know most people probably think cars are assembled and sent out the door with no issues, but being a tech at a Mercedes-Benz plant, I can tell you I've done major repair jobs on brand new cars that haven't even made it out of the plant yet. Might be a cool topic to look into that most people don't think about. Well, that's the problem. I don't know anybody other than you that does that. So I don't have much information. So send me an email about what it's like and I'll see what I can do. If you want me to make this a regular series, put those questions you want answered in the comments. Maybe I'll start doing this once a month. As always, thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.